It looks like justice does prevail, folks. Even at times of darkness, even at times where you think you just don't have hope or faith or sanity, anything, there is some light. There is some light within this darkness. At least in the UK for this instance. So they arrested Prince Andrew. They arrested Prince Andrew. And I never thought this was actually going to be a thing. I was actually kind of shocked about this, knowing that how much they have covered up the Epstein files, knowing how much this has been going on for decades, knowing that, the royal family in particular, I'm not fond of. I know people get fanatical about it. There's a lot of deep, dark stories and conspiracies and whatnot within the royal family. I never thought this was actually going to happen. And concerning the fact that there's been no arrests within the United States, within Canada, within anywhere else, that this was actually going to be a possibility. But as Nick Sorter says, holy crap. That's his catchphrase. He always starts a story. Holy crap. Former Prince Andrew has been arrested by British police following revelations in the newly released Epstein files. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, the younger brother of King Charles, was taken into custody this morning on his 66th birthday. Finally. Well, again, I guess you have to be, good at, you got to praise small miracles, because I'm glad that they did this. But does this mean they're actually going to start arresting more people? Or is this just going to be a one and done deal to shut up people, to say look, we got one of them. What do you want? So here's ABC News reporting on this.
And we have some breaking news, some stunning news out of London. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, the former Prince Andrew, has been arrested, presumably in connection with his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. I want to go straight to our foreign correspondent, James Longman.
Hi, George. Yes, extraordinary news out of the UK this morning. The former Prince Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, has this morning been arrested on the Sandringham estate where he was living after having been removed, of course, from the home he was living in Windsor. The Thames Valley Police, the police here in the UK, put out a statement. They haven't named him specifically, but they are saying a man in his 60s has been arrested. As part of the investigation, they say, we have today arrested a man in his 60s from Norfolk on suspicion of misconduct in public office and are carrying out searches at addresses in Berkshire and Norfolk. They say the man remains in police custody at this time. They are not, like I say, naming Andrew, but we know that it is him. This pertains to emails, we believe, that were published recently in the most recent Epstein files published by the Department of Justice, which seem to suggest, they allege, that Andrew was forwarding emails to Jeffrey Epstein whilst he was trade envoy here in the UK. Now, as a public official, that is misconduct. That is what the police are alleging. That's the
So it sounds like the arrest wasn't in particular with trafficking or any of the illegal affairs they did with minors, but more just on the fact that it was a security problem. That him being the trade commissioner in the UK, sending information to Jeffrey Epstein, communicating back and forth with uh, a foreigner, because Jeffrey Epstein is American and obviously Andrew is British, that's a conflict of interest. That's what it seems like they're holding him account for, which it's something. It's something. Again, you gotta praise small miracles that they did detain him on that. There's a lot more to Prince Andrew that they're not releasing out or haven't, fully indicted him on. Who knows what's yet to come, but that's what it seems like to me on this instance here. So here is a publication here saying former Prince Andrew arrested following Epstein file revelations. Andrew Mountbatten of Windsor was arrested on his 66th birthday on suspicion of misconduct in public office, with police searching properties in two regions that include his former Windsor home and his current home on the Royal, how do you say that, Strandingham Estate? I don't know how to say that. I'm not up with the family for a multitude of reasons, but there's all the cops there. He was detained. What it sounds like to me is they're detaining him because of the fact that he was sharing secretive information. Yes, obviously he should be prosecuted for that. But there's also a long slew of other crimes that he could be easily committed of that they could easily, detain him for, that they're not going to, because if they detain him of those crimes, then guess what? There's going to be an outcry for more arrests of the royal family, of British Prime Minister Keir Starmer and other coordinators that were also involved with the Epstein files. Same with America, same with Canada. That's why they're trying to do small little urgency here. That's why I think that, the arresting of Prince Andrew was allowed to happen because, we can arrest him just for the security risk and not to do with the fact that he trafficked and solicited and potentially groped and assaulted a minor. And as we could see from documentation, as we've heard, Virginia Giuffre and many other victims have stated that Prince Andrew did in fact sexually assaulted these girls underage. So they're not arresting him on that, but they're arresting him on the security stuff. Let's just remind people, this is ABC News many years ago. This is their hot mic moment where they were trying to cover up this story. They were trying to cover up the fact that Prince Andrew and the royal family knew about this island, knew about Epstein, knew about all the behaviors that were going on, knew about the trafficking circles, knew about the blackmail, knew about the security risk. But the royal family told ABC to shut their mouth. And here's one of the reporters talking about it.
I've had the story for 3 years. I've had this interview with Virginia Roberts. We would not put it on the air. First of all, I was told, who's Jeffrey Epstein? No one knows who that is. This is a stupid story. Then the palace found out that we had her whole allegations about Prince Andrew and threatened us a million different ways. We were so afraid we wouldn't be able to interview Kate and Will that also quashed the story. And then...
So she's saying that because they were getting threats from the royal family that was going to oust Prince Andrew, and also the fact that they couldn't get access to Will and Kate, that they squashed the story. So this is why I've been saying about these Epstein files. It's not just about the fact that these are perverts and pedos running amok on this island, trafficking these young females and young boys to do these heinous acts for their own sexual pleasure. But it's about the blackmail. It's about the blackmail. And that's why they kept this under wraps for so long and still continues on to this day, even with Epstein supposedly gone. That's up for discussion because now there's revelations that Epstein may have gone to Tel Aviv, that maybe he's hiding out in Israel. At least that's what his Fortnite accounts are saying. Of course, he's going to be a gamer on children's on a children's video game. Of course, that's going to happen. Let's see some more of this. By the way, this is brought to you by Project Veritas. They were the ones that got this information and leaked it out, and it went viral. I think this was back in 2017. I don't know.
And then Alan Dershowitz was also implicated in it because of the planes. She told me everything. She had pictures. She had everything. She was in hiding for 12 years. We convinced her to come out. We convinced her to talk to us. It was unbelievable what we had. Clinton, we had everything. I tried for 3 years to get it on, to no avail, and now it's all coming out, and it's like these new revelations, and I freaking had all of it. I'm so pissed right now. Like, every day I get more and more pissed because I'm just like, oh my God, what we had was unreal. Other women backing it up. Hey, yep. Brad Edwards, the attorney, 3 years ago, saying there will come a day when we will realize Jeffrey Epstein was the most prolific pedophile this country has ever known. I had it all 3 years ago.
That turned out to be true. That turned out to be true. And it's amazing that no other journalists felt this way. Amazing that you don't hear like Rachel Maddow or Anderson Cooper. Oh, that's right. Because they're willing to lie. They're willing to give up their integrity and their soul to cover up this story. They're willing to do that because to them, it's more important to get access. It's more important to be the celebrity. It's more important that they get, that nice penthouse on the Upper East Side of New York. Whereas this reporter, Amy Robach, she's furious. She's infuriated because she had information. She was doing her real journalism at the time. And the network told her, no, you're not going to do it. You're not going to do it because of all the threats we're getting from the royal family, because ABC needed the clearance to, cover Will and Kate for some reason. And now it's come to light. Now people realize what everybody was contributing to. Not just the actual PDF files that were on the island, but the networks that were covering up for this. The lawyers, Alan Dershowitz, who, by the way, wrote articles after visiting Epstein and being involved with Epstein's affairs, wrote articles about lowering the age of consent. That's what a great man that guy is. What a schmuck he is. And they've been covering this up for decades. Decades. And now, even with the one arrest of Prince Andrew for basically a security risk, potential espionage, yeah, that's good. I'm happy for that. But that's barely touching the tip of the surface. So, here, to show people, this guy, the Buck You Will, love that handle, says the Epstein files are starting to destroy evil men. Never forget that Mark Carney is close and personal friends with both Ghislaine Maxwell and former Prince Andrew, who was arrested today. No one is accidentally friends with PDF files, let alone two. So not only Mark Carney, but his wife, we know Diana Fox and the Fox family out of the UK, were good friends with the Maxwell family. They knew Ghislaine Maxwell went to the same schools as Diana Fox and her sister, Tanya. They went to the same schools. They grew up together. They were very familiar with Robert Maxwell and what he did. They knew all this. And we did a deep dive. We took that web application that Ian Carroll put together, and we did a search on Mark Carney, and we realized that Mark Carney, yes, he did not do anything, in the regards of actually being a PDF himself, but he is complicit in covering up the crimes. He is complicit of financial crimes. He's also complicit of leaking out secretive information from the UK because he was the governor of the Bank of England. So, where's his prosecution? Where's Diana Fox's prosecution? When is any American involved with Jeffrey Epstein going to get arrested? You notice that. Everyone's so up in arms about, oh my God, they got Prince Andrew that the UK government is following. Yeah, that's great. When's it going to happen to you? When's it going to happen? When is Alan Dershowitz going to be held accountable for his actions? When's Leslie Wexner, who gave Jeffrey Epstein this extraordinary amount of money that supposedly is in hiding, when is he going to get arrested? That's the ultimate question. Here's Vince Langman. He says former Prince Andrew was just arrested. Now do President Clinton. Well, supposedly the Clintons were supposed to be testifying. That's their excuse. They're testifying to discuss the relationship with them and Epstein. That's it. It's barely a slap on the wrist that they get to openly excused himself of, oh, I just had a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah. See the photo there? There's a good boy Bill. All he has to do is talk to Congress. That's it. Him and Hillary gets away with anything. It's just amazing to me. Meanwhile, not just Prince Andrew, but here's also something else that I want to bring to attention. It doesn't have to do with Jeffrey Epstein, but this goes to show you just how screwed up our judicial process here in the West is compared to anywhere else in the world. So, former South Korean President Yoon receives a life sentence for imposing martial law. They're holding their former president accountable for imposing martial law in South Korea. Do you think that we ever hold our politicians, both current and past, accountable for anything? No. No. Not whatsoever. Remember Barack Obama was elected because he was supposed to prosecute the Bush administration for lying about torture, lying about getting us into Iraq, lying about, covering up 9/11, covering up the investigation. What did Barack Obama say? Well, those crimes happened in the past. I got to look to the future. And he did nothing about it. Then he committed his own crimes. And then Donald Trump got elected. Did Donald Trump go after Barack Obama's crimes after that? No. Then he committed some crimes. Then Joe Biden got elected. Did Biden go after Donald Trump's past crimes? Well, kind of. Kind of. He went after the crimes that they can accuse Trump of, but not themselves, because Biden was committing crimes. They're all complicit of criminal behavior. That's why they become powerful people that they are. It's not because they're smart or intelligent. Tucker Carlson revealed that these are not smart people. They're criminally insane. They're psychotic. That's why they're able to blackmail each other to climb the reins. But apparently in other countries, it doesn't work out. So, former South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol, hope I'm pronouncing that right, was found guilty of leading an insurrection on Thursday and sentenced to life in prison for his belief in imposing of martial law in 2024, a ruling that makes a dramatic culmination of the country's biggest political crisis in decades. The conservative leader was ousted from office after he declared martial law and sent troops to surround the National Assembly on December 3rd, 2024, in a baffling attempt to overcome a legislator controlled by his liberal opponents. Judge Ji Yoon of the Seoul Central District Court said he found Yoon, 65, guilty of rebellion for mobilizing military and police forces in a legal attempt to seize the assembly, arrest political opponents, and establish unchecked power for an indefinite period. So isn't that something? So South Korea is able to actually abide by the law and fall through on judicial process. Seems like the UK is attempting to do that. What about us? Do we actually follow through on that? Do we actually have proper means to do justice when it comes to, the harassment of Canadians during the Freedom Convoy, the illegal use of the Emergencies Powers Act? Of course not. Because this is Justin Trudeau recently just bought a $4.26 million home in Outremont. The new residence is a 2-story single home. The sales deed indicates the former prime minister has yet to move in. So he gets to date Katy Perry, buy this, beautiful mansion on the outskirts in Quebec, gets to live the lavish lifestyle. Meanwhile, Prince Andrew got arrested. The former president of South Korea got arrested for martial law. And we don't do any justice here. That's why Justin Trudeau gets away with it. That's why George Bush gets to continue to do finger painting on Crawford Ranch. You know, the guy that lied to Americans excessively. I mean, if we go back throughout history, a lot of these leaders would be arrested if we actually followed through on law, if we actually followed through on judicial order. But we don't. We twist the law in favor of these people because we live in a fictitious world. We don't live in a democracy. We don't live in sovereignty. As the movie Network taught us, it's a bunch of international companies and the flow of dollars. That's it. You don't have countries, you don't have sovereignty, you don't have a say. You have nothing. You have owners, they control you. Chrystia Freeland. Again, another person that I would regard to be held contempt and prosecuted and possibly serve a jail sentence for everything that she's committed to. She not only gets to go off to Ukraine to be an advisor for Zelensky, but now she's also hired by Bloomberg. Chrystia Freeland joins Bloomberg as contributor to Weekend TV. She also just recently was on Bill Maher. These are criminals. These are people that should be prosecuted. These are people that should be, alongside with Prince Andrew, arrested for way worse crimes that they're telling you. Way worse crimes. And as I stated here, so I retweeted or requoted, however you say it, that CTV News article about the South Korean president. I said, Prince Andrew arrested for public office violation. South Korea president gets life sentence for martial law. Justin Trudeau dates Katy Perry buying a multi-million-dollar mansion. Chrystia Freeland gets a job at Bloomberg and visits Bill Maher again. You see the problem? I do. I do. And for all the people that are saying that, you know, places like, you know, Korea and China and Vietnam and all these, you know, communist countries, at least they're actually responding to when there's actual criminal attempt, as opposed to us that just allow the criminals to rule over us and dictate over us. These people should be prosecuted. These people should be serving life sentences. And that's saying it lightly. Because we all know throughout human history, there was people that were tortured and killed and burned at the stake for a lot less. And I'm not condoning that. I'm not saying that we should ever do that, because that was wrong then and it's wrong now, but the least we can do is hold these people accountable. But no, Justin Trudeau gets to have a lavish lifestyle with a pop star. Chrystia Freeland gets hired by Bloomberg. Stephen Guilbeault is off doing whatever he does. He's not going to be held accountable. Mark Miller just got transferred. Same with Dominic LeBlanc. Same with all these people. George Bush. Dick Cheney died, so I guess we got to wait for, you know, these heinous monsters to just rot out and go right to hell. Guess that's the silver lining. But yeah, majority of these people, the reason why we have the screwed up world that we're in is because we're ruled by criminal psychopaths that need to be prosecuted. And since obviously we don't have a system in place to do that because of how corrupted our institutions are, it comes down to people like us. It comes down to people like us to constantly remind people that these are not good people. That you should not be listening to them on television and blindly trusting them because, oh, they are in a position of power. Oh, of course I'm going to trust them, because why wouldn't I trust the former deputy prime minister? Oh, that's right, because she's complicit in money laundering. Oh, that's right, because he was the one, along with Justin Trudeau, along with many other people, that demonized Canadians during the Freedom Convoy and illegally, unconstitutionally insurged the Emergencies Powers Act. And they all lied under oath in testimony. And they barely get a slap on the wrist. So explain that one to me.